It's part of the Meme Whisperer series. There's this thing going on the screen right now. I just saw this post. This was being posted around sometimes. It's in a restaurant. Some gentleman, I guess the owner of this restaurant, is talking to some people about something. And that's going to be on screen. There's also going to be a link getting into that now. Okay, so let's see if you can actually get the sound on this.
Thank you. I invested a lot of money into buying this building, into developing this concept, so black people can have somewhere nice to go to, okay? Somewhere where we can feel good about ourselves as a... Come on, stop the music, please. Somewhere where our people can feel good about ourselves as a culture, okay? No, real talk. And so all this twerking and shit, take it to Prime, take it to Pink, don't bring it here because we're a restaurant. And so beyond that, 75% of my customers are ladies. And I want men to show respect for themselves for how they carry themselves here. So how can I tell the men to respect themselves and you guys are twerking on glass here? If you want to do it, get the fuck out my restaurant. Because I did it for our people and I did it for our culture. So don't do it now. Don't do it again. I don't want to hear it. If you don't like it, get out because I don't need your money. I need to provide something for my people. And don't do it again. Thank you.
So you see, he said that. He was talking about this, and the person who posted this, DJ Green Villain, at DJ Green Villain, says restaurant suicide on camera. And when I saw this, it was like, okay, what's the suicide he's talking about? He's talking about he doesn't want people twerking in a restaurant. And we'll see below, I want to get into this back and forth I had with somebody who commented on this, and I was wondering, why do they comment it in this way? And you see, what is the culture? Why does he consider this restaurant suicide? I end up actually seeing a clip of the actual video, and I thought this is not something. Sorry. In the initial article I saw this, there was one female who had gotten onto a table somewhere in one of the booths, and she was twerking up against the wall. And then there's these videos of people like this individual right here recording from what she's doing, and you see right there, she was twerking on the wall. And the gentleman, you see him walking into the screen right there, and he talks to her. And there's a further video down here where somebody actually shows that he's having a conversation with the person. There's a hidden camera, there's a camera somewhere in the restaurant and showing that he tried to talk to the person first. So some of the people are saying, oh, he should have actually talked to the person alone. When he was talking to everybody in there, he was being insulting, he wasn't talking about this. And there was a back and forth I got in with someone here. I'm going to try to find that. Probably going to pause here so I can get the actual article or the actual interaction with somebody that actually had I think this is the owner right there talking to the people who were doing this right now, who had that dance, the female. And then he went on and he talked to people. And people were saying, oh, he shouldn't have talked to everybody in there. And that's why it's suicide. I'm like, what about black culture from what he said right there, saying this isn't a restaurant. I don't want people dancing in that way. You saw how she was twerking up. How is that insulting? How is that a suicide? And again, people use these words. They literally mean figuratively. I don't think they actually mean literal suicide. But what kind of culture are you meaning that you're saying that is not for us? People were commenting and saying, oh, this is just how we dance. There's music in there. Like, when this music comes up, you dance. It's like, oh, no. People don't just dance to music. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. That music, this hip-hop dance music and club music, you can also grind. You can also actually have intercourse to that music. But in a restaurant, you're not just going to break out and have intercourse because the mood hits you. So this person posted that, right? And then this one individual here, Tiffany from Jersey, she posted, as advertised as a nightclub, dancing provocatively is what's done in nightclubs. Also, the type of dance is part of our culture. Research the history of all tribal cultures. You will see it's normal for the women to dance in like manner. White, that YT right there, it means white people, that's just white Americans, a specific thing in there, and I have issues with this, we'll see, we're getting into it. White people got you hating yourselves. Okay, so that's what they wrote right there. And let's just go to this reply thread, because I got in with this person. So there's a different replies here going in, and how is that remotely a thing? The owner wasn't wrong here. So people going back and forth with that. But I posted to them and I said, which tribes are you researching? I'm currently in Nairobi. I can ask my folks to check around to which women break out in butt gyrations during meal times. don't come at me with the Dothraki horse lords thing. What actual supposed African tribes are doing this? With the Dothraki thing is because there is a culture thing where they say, oh, culturally, this is what these people do. And that might be marketing. That might be media. You know, they're saying, oh, the music, and then we act in this way. Yeah, we gonna shake our ass. Like it. Okay, what's going on with it? With the Dothraki, they had that thing where they were just having intercourse out in public. The Dothraki were from the Game of Thrones show and the books, the series by George R.R. Martin. They just had this thing where they just had intercourse in front of everyone, like outside under the stars. It was a common thing. So there are some tribal things that might have that, but when somebody writes that, when they literally write that, again, as advertised as a nightclub, dancing provocatively is what's done in nightclubs. Also, that type of dance is part of our culture. Whose culture? Research the history of all tribal cultures. So those are the things that I was asking about. What specific tribes? What do you mean ours in that sense? And then this is the response. The response was, I can see where many took my first comment out of context, in which I intended. Originally, I saw the video without all the info. I looked up the place and saw it was listed as a nightclub. So I was thinking he was mad that they were twerking and enticing the men. Again, you see, jumping into the enticing the men, I didn't even see the enticing the men. He did mention in his thing, he was saying there's men here also. We want the men to respect them. We don't want them to look at this way. People were talking about, oh, majority of your clientele are females, like the man said. So why would he berate them in that way? But I've seen people in the comments who also came in and said, as a self-identified black woman, I would not want to see that as a restaurant either. But then you have other people, black men, black women, non-black men, and black women, saying, oh, no, well, they're playing the music, and that's what's going to happen. So I responded to them, and I liked their tweet, and I said, yeah, problems occur due to how we define X rather than what X is. If he owned a strip club, and then he said, we're serving food, don't twerk, that's one thing. But my focus here was the tribal comment perplexes me, as there's diversity among the 40 plus in Kenya, that's the 40 plus tribes in Kenya, let alone African culture. But to me, I don't think black means African. I don't think white, as she wrote in that initial comment, that YT means Europeans. There's certain slangs that they use, and I think it's specific terms to United States of America, rather contemporary. In the last maybe last 100 or so years, post-slavery, even maybe during slavery, some of these things could have been formed during that time because you had people brought from Africa, out of Africa, and brought into a place where they had their own unique belief systems, unique ethnicities, unique cultures. And when they talk about certain things in there, it doesn't necessarily cut across all the way. And then some of the responses here were, I'm trying to get to the place where you can actually see the actual responses. I don't know how Twitter actually works the thing. I don't use Twitter that much. Okay, so this is some of the responses they had to my initial comment there. Was I didn't name every tribe. Also, some Asian cultures, Middle Eastern, and there is beauty in the language of cultural dances. And okay, the other response, you can have dark skin and be Aboriginal or from Pakistan. Okay, agreed. I said tribal cultures, Native, Samoan, African, Toano, basically cultures where it's common for women to dance provocatively. I was really going with the negativity against the actual dance. I now know that the issue was that they were not in a nightclub, and they were on tables, which is tacky. And again, I agreed, but that's not what I'm trying to address here. Some of the point I was trying to address here was I was wondering if he meant in particular tribe or tribes, or possibly the individuals in the video that they're a part of. And they literally wrote our culture and all tribal cultures, and that there is hate for ourselves. So Elon Musk is an African American, but he's not dark skinned. I didn't mention melanin. They brought the melanin into the issue. I think. Maybe you can say that. But when they're talking about black in that sense, that normally refers to like some skin color. Like, there's some things in there. So Sean King, quite questionable about the melanin content. So you can be black and also white. So I guess you don't really, just like you're saying, you can have dark skin and be Aboriginal or Pakistani. So there is that in there. So is she talking about the tribes that have the dark skin? I don't know. So I expect tribes from the European continent also had provocative dances for specific times. And she says, okay, I was writing in shorthand not to write a paper. Yes, we know. When people start saying some of these things, I start getting kind of suspicious. We know it's Twitter. You're not going to write it. It's a quick tweet, which I acknowledge that I could have fleshed out better. But for this part, it's so off track. I never mentioned European, and I wouldn't think anyone would consider them as ethnic. My ancestry is part Cameroon. So when somebody says that, they might have deleted the tweets. So they've actually deleted the tweets. So I'm going to now stop and pick this back up because I thought this was going to happen, and I did take screen caps of them. I've been recording this video live, as you're seeing, and I took screen caps of them. As you'll see, this person bailed on this conversation, and this is what often happens. We'll see what happens. You can see here it's showing tweet is deleted by author. You're unable to read because tweet is author limits who can view their tweets. So they might have blocked me, they might have deleted it, but we still have this person's tweets there, so I will get to that now. There, people who are watching this, and I thank you for actually watching and listening to this stuff. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't done any of that stuff yet. But I'd like to do some of this more. But anyway, so okay, so you see here, I was trying to understand what is this person talking about. You see, do you pee and poop in the floor, or is that part of your tribal culture too much? It was like, what is this thing? This thing was just like it's tribal culture, and they were talking about these things. So I'm trying to ask, what tribes? What tribes are you talking about specifically here? What is this research? What are the things that are going on in this? You can be dark skinned, you can have Aboriginal. And there's nothing comments here. So she's talking about this thing. So she's talking about with the actual writing the shorthand and coming back to this thing. I'm trying to try to get this. So when they're talking about ethnic, they're saying they don't consider white people to be ethnic. And here's a definition of ethnic that I posted there. And this is from Merriam-Webster. It says definition of ethnic, which is an adjective, of or relating to large groups of people classed accordingly to common racial, national, tribal, religious, linguistic, or cultural origin or background. Ethnic minorities, ethnic enclaves. Being a member of a specified ethnic group, an ethnic German, or relating to a characteristic of a minority ethnic group. See, specifically minority ethnic group. Ethnic neighborhoods, ethnic food. Of relating to the Gentiles or a nation not converted to Christianity, heathen, pagan. Ancient ethnic rebels of a faith long since forsaken. So now with the ethnic noun, it says a member of an ethnic group, chiefly in the U.S. Now, this is the thing. This is why they might be specifically using this term. I'm using the original term. This is kind of the way I actually use the term. But here they might be using chiefly in the U.S. a member of an ethnic group, especially a member of a minority group who retains the customs, language, and social views of the group. And this is the key that I'm saying. What are the customs, languages, and social views of the group that this person is referring to? Are they referring to social views or language? Language, is it English? Is English the actual thing, or was it when they're trying to get Ebonics up and going? Is that the language that I'm trying to refer to? Let me hit the notifications and try to get here and see. Okay, so this person, you can still see here, the comments are still here, despite them deleting it and blocking them. They're still showing up here in my actual blog, in my actual notifications of the things. So one of the things they said was, I say tribal cultures, Native American Samoan, you can have dark skin. I was writing shorthand, and then they responded here and they said, that's why I use plural. Generally speaking, when people say ethnic, it is to exclude white people. Again, back to the point, twerking is similar to tribal dances. This is separate apart from what went down in that incident. You seem to be responding to a troll, and then they say peace. And then let me see if I can actually get to a thing where I can open this in a separate. You can see they open the responses in a separate thing. And I was going to actually show this because right now they've deleted this thing. But my response to that one, let me see if I can actually get to the actual place where I responded to that directly. Let's see if it's still here on this other side. Is it here? I don't know what's going on right with this thing. So we're all over the place with this. Okay, my pointing out with a peaceful thing when they said that, they're talking about me being a troll. They're saying, oh, by me actually, no, let me actually get the actual response. Sorry. So this is the response right here. I found it. If you're still listening, good for you. You're doing a lot more. So I posted there with an ethnic definition of the thing right there, right? And then they come out, and this was my response to that one of the numbers. I said 1, 2, and 3. What people? Not most Africans I know of or English speakers in general. Because most Africans I know of and English speakers in general will use ethnic as that first one, just meaning it's a group of people. They will acknowledge that there's European ethnicities. Maybe people you define as black. And that's what I'm saying. Black is different than African. Europeans, Asians, and Arabs have tribes. What percent have twerk similar dances for it to be considered tribal? As they said here, twerking is similar to tribal dances. When you say that, I think you would need, when you say just tribal dances, is it some? Yes, I guarantee you there are some, but there's some Europeans who had this kind of dance too. Number 4, you seem to be responding to a troll. I said, what? then was never at war to begin with. And then here they say you do not need to be at war with someone to wish you peace. Your trolling is level 100 now. And my response to that was my pointing out that I consider this to be peaceful already in response to your wish of peace is not a troll. But if that's part of how you read this, again, your definition of troll may be as different to mine as yours of tribe, ethnicity, and black. Quite interesting, a bit frustrating. And then I guess it might have been frustrating to them too, as they went off and deleted this. Let me see if there's anything else in here. I mean, this is what I'm saying. The basic thing I'm talking about here, when somebody says something, like in this initial comment, advertises a nightclub. Even if it's advertised as a nightclub, it's a restaurant. You could clearly see people. So when they come out and they said, okay, that's it. I'm focusing on the actual main aspect because I agreed and said, yes, if you were saying that. But when they say something like, the type of dance is part of our culture, what culture is that? Research the history of all tribal cultures. What? She literally said all tribal cultures. And then you will see that it is normal. And normal to me is 50% plus one, right? So which all tribal cultures was she referring to that 50% plus one of all tribal cultures consider twerking or similar dances to twerking be normal? That's the thing that I'm saying. And then white people got you hating yourselves. People in Africa don't consider it, most people in Africa don't consider it inappropriate to dance in a twerking manner in public in general because of white people. That's just what I'm trying to say. And I'm just trying to understand, is there something in here that I'm missing? I don't know. Maybe there's something here that I'm missing. With the definitions, with the rage quit, like I said, I'm not one, I've said this before, I'm not one to think just because somebody quits and deletes like means they've lost the argument. I don't even necessarily consider this to be really an argument. This is just a conversation that we were having and they decided to bail on it. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you think with this? Let me see if I can actually get this with the actual tweets in my actual profile and see if there's actually a way to actually see some of the other responses that I might have put out there that I'm forgetting to actually put here. But yeah, okay, Moy pointing it out. Was asking for clarification of the tribes. And as I said, I agree. It's not there. I tried asking them, what do they mean by black here? Do they mean that like someone like Charlize Theron is African American but native European by the usage of their terms? Because they were talking about, oh, my ancestry is Cameroonian. And I was like, yeah, okay, I get that. I know that majority of the, I think it was 400,000 or so black slaves that were brought from Africa on the transatlantic slave trade were mostly brought from about 3 or 4 countries that are now in the Western African place. So it's not the entire continent of Africa. Most of the people who were enslaved in Eastern Africa and other parts of Sub-Saharan Africa were actually involved in the Trans-Saharan slave trade, being enslaved by North Africans and Arab peoples. So that's something that I saw in my history. And we're starting to get to that figure and try to understand that. So some of these things I'm trying to understand. Maybe she has looked into Cameroonian kind of ethnicity and she's seen that people there twerk. And that could be something that I want to know about and see. but why does she say she's just discounting European ethnicities? And I pointed out that she talked about the globe. She started talking about Asia. She started talking about all these other places. And I just pointed out that Europe itself, all the tribes and the peoples in Europe globally are actually a minority. So even if you want to keep that term to say ethnicities is only minority people, then technically Asia itself has more tribes and peoples and things like that than ethnicities than the rest of the world, right? It's like a third of the population is in Asia. So these are the kind of things where we're just like, what's going on in this? And this has been a bit of a ramble. It's been all over the place. Thank you for listening. Like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this particular thing. What was she meaning by this? Was I just being, do you think I was trolling? That's the thing. I really wasn't trolling. I was really just trying to understand what this person was saying. And clear confusion. And I'm attempting to be better at communicating. And I'd like my channel, my content to set up the situation where it's more conversations going back and forth. And in some of that, I will be continuing some of these posts where I'm posting conversations that are kind of frustrating or conversations that I've had with people. And I'll still do some, maybe have it in a separate place where I just train of thought, me talking about my own things. Might think of doing that in a separate situation where I just interact with other people. But I want to get more of a platform where I actually communicate with people. Have a conversation series that I'm building up on where I actually talk to somebody. If I actually had the time to sit and talk to this individual here, maybe she would have been able to explain, would have been able to agree on certain terms and get to a better understanding. Because I don't necessarily think she was a bad person. As I said, I was not trolling them. I wasn't intending. I have intended to troll people sometimes, and I might have been kind of sort of trolling this person here talking about the James O'Keefe video. Somebody over here was talking about something. I don't think they understood me when I said with the replies here. Like you see, Project Veritas getting ready to release another crock of heavily edited, out of context bullshit, and then my comment to that was was here, as you might see, where the data, I don't think they necessarily got what I was saying here. Was kind of this was me. This is me trolling. But sometimes my trolling is done in a way where people don't really get them trolling. I said, as edited and out of context as it is, it will make it all the more simple to counter. But you know people are so dumb that they'll fall for it, even once it's shown to be out of context and unedited in parts to show. And the person, they think they liked it and they whatnot. So they said the strangest part of this is how is that they've done it and people, they're known to be making dishonest claims and content. And this is what I said. If they're known, and Veritas actually has been shown, they have a wall. James O'Keefe has a wall. He has some of the highest number of retractions, at least for people who are tracking this, of people who said he's lying, and then he sues them, or he takes them to court for it, and then they have to retract the claim that they had on this. But I know people don't necessarily believe things. People believe in Allah, in Buddha, flat earth, Russian collusion, hitting kids is good parenting, all these things, despite all the evidence out there. So it's not as simple as just having access to the actual information. And when it comes to things like Veritas, when it comes to things like that video, as the female individual there mentioned, she'd seen something, and then once she started seeing, oh, it's not just a restaurant, I get it when they're talking about this thing, that's the context, and that made her objection to that different. But my comment, my bigger questions about her was what she was talking about tribe, what she's talking about white people making you hate yourself, what is the culture she's speaking about. Yet I think there was a disagreement with her actually understanding what I'm saying there. When it comes to James O'Keefe and people like this, part of why I like this, and I made a video back in 2017 when Veritas was just starting up about how this is good, where let him put the information out. If he puts this information out and CNN just comes out and says, yes, we literally said this, but here's the full context, I take the information. I don't object to the Bible just because it's heavily edited. I object to the Bible because I've looked at the actual information and found it to be fallacious. There's not enough water in the world for it to flood the earth. Maybe if you think water could be magicked in, or you think it's a hollow earth and the water could have seeped into the bottom of the earth, and then all that's allowed for, and then you still think it's actually positive that a God can actually flood the earth and kill all the unborn children, all the land animals, and all these things, and still have to worship that person. Those are things that I consider objectionable, not because it's been edited and put out of context. What is the good context for something like that? I don't understand some of these things. So anyway, just trying to learn, trying to get some conversation, trying to get some understanding. Thank you for listening. I'll try to do better with making some of these things more cogent. As I mentioned, I might have just communicated in a completely inaccurate way to this person that they thought I was trolling. I don't know what the definition of trolling is. I don't know what the definition of culture is. I don't know what the definition of ethnicity is. So to this point. But that's it for this video. Like, share, subscribe. I don't know what kind of merchandise I would have been having on the screen. I don't know. It might be the don't talk-ish, stop talking-ish, quit talking-ish thing. That might be the merchandise that's on the screen, but there's going to be links to a merchandise store where you can help the channel out that way. If there's nothing at the store that you find is to your liking, to your taste, there's also links to PayPal for one-time donations there. Anything will be appreciated. Trying to get this to be a more regular thing, more common thing, create better content for you out there, in the name of just communicating, understanding, sharing information, which I think we can do in an unprecedented level right now in current timeline, which is going to lead to more human flourishing. Goodbye. I don't know if it can fly. I'm just going to leave it out here and let it find its way.